Hello and welcome to The Rest is Football with Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. Alan is travelling as we speak for the Champions League this week, but we do have a very, very special guest. Without doubt, one of the greatest footballers of all time, a 5-time Premier League winner, a European champion with Denmark, and of course a vital part of the 1999 Manchester United treble winning team. It is, of course, the one and only Peter Schmeichel, my old friend. How are you?
Let's have a round of applause for Peter. Finally, you've come on the pod. Where have you been, sir? Where have you been?
Well, you need an invite to get on the pod, you know? Yeah. So it came. But Gary, I have to really, honestly, thank you very much for that intro. You called me a footballer, and that is so important that you did that.
Yeah.
People just call me a goalkeeper, like it's not football.
Do you take umbrage with that? I didn't realise that was an issue.
No, I don't.
One thing I won't call you after all the amount of times we played together is a golfer.
Oh my God, why? I used to be brilliant.
Yeah, you were. You were the sweatiest person I've ever met on a golf course. If it was above 12 degrees.
I've taken a leave out of your book. I've stopped playing.
We know Peter Schmeichel on the pitch, leader, warrior, top goalkeeper, but people don't really know maybe the different side to you.
I open up to different things I do when I'm not doing football, for instance, or not working. I was, put through the paces by my father. His biggest ambition in life was to make me a pianist. That's what he wanted. And of course, having a son that only wanted to play football, at some point, it clashed.
You were never any good with your hands, though, Peter, so it wouldn't work.
But in a way, my father and myself, our backgrounds are very different. It sounds weird, this, but we are from two different cultures. My father grew up in Poland, and the big question I had was, I decided that I wanted to play for Manchester United. We're in the early 70s here. We haven't got a lot of TV. There's absolutely no reporting in Danish newspapers about, you could see the results. What was it within me that decided that I wanted to play for that particular club? And then you end up doing that, end up playing for them, and you end up playing in a team that was so successful. What was that? So I wanted to find the answer to that. And in that, we had to dig really, really deep into my family background in order to find some kind of understanding of my personality. What is it inside of me?
What was it then, Peter, do you think, having done all that?
I'm going to write another book. Because I still don't know.
When did you start to think that you could be the best?
It's a weird thing because I was very young when my coaches, and I also played for the school team. I actually came into the school team where I was the youngest by 4 years. And the teachers and the coaches were saying, oh, you're very talented. You'll play for Denmark one day. So I just started to believe that. When your teacher is saying stuff like that, you then believe it. When your coach is saying, you then believe it.
Always a goalkeeper, Peter. Did you ever play out?
Always a goalkeeper.
Always, yeah.
From the very first day.
I asked you this question because I wondered when I was doing my research. You played for a club called, and forgive my pronunciation, I have no idea how you say it, Hivdrov? Go on, what is it?
Hvidovre.
What? It's spelled Hvidrove.
Yes, I'm happy, Peter, because when I say Spanish and I don't pronounce it the right way, it's straight on to me. So what was it, Gaz? Go on. Big shot.
I'm not big shot. I know it's big Danish. Anyway, that team that you played for, in 60, 70 odd games, you scored 6 goals. Now, you have got, funnily enough, you are only 1 goal behind in your entire career than Micah Richards. So don't get too cocky on me, Micah.
Touche.
Before you start. So did you take penalties?
I did, yeah. I had a spell where and what I used to do, I did the same as Alan used to do, just absolutely hit it as hard as you can. And I didn't care where it was going in. I'm surprised at that. Is it, I don't know what it is now. Is it big meeks or big knees? I'm not sure what to call you now.
Big mouth.
Oh, even better. Even better. Michael Thing.
Michael thing. For those who don't know what Peter's talking about,
I had no
on
idea.
CBS we had Rod Stewart on, and Peter was interviewing
Best
him.
interview ever.
And
Honestly, the funnest, it wasn't even an interview. It was pure entertainment. Take me off air. I'm embarrassing myself, he said.
he had a few drinks today. And someone from the studio basically said, do you know who Big Meeks is? And he said, who? Big Knees? He said, no.
Got you.
I've not got a clue.
Rod Stewart was this.
And then we, on the monitor, we got Micah there. And he goes, oh, I know who that is. It's Michael Thing.
Absolutely killed me.
Oh, dear. You kept that quiet until now, Mike. I've not seen that.
I did.
Yeah. Oh, bless him.
Well, anyway, sorry, what was the question?
God, I can't remember. It's that long ago. We were talking about if you'd ever played outfield, but you hadn't.
No, when I joined the football team I started with, I was outfield for about a couple of minutes. And I had no idea about the concept of football. I was very much like a dog. Where the ball was, I was as well. And I was just pushing people out of the way. And the coach said, why don't you try and go and goal? You know? And I did. And it worked out quite well.
Yeah, you went to Bromby, didn't you? How did the move to Manchester United come about?
In order to understand exactly how that happened, we're in the late sort of 80s, and it wasn't normal for a footballer, and especially not in Denmark, to work with an agent. So they was just creeping into Danish football. There were agents who would come and say, I've got a club for you, but they wouldn't work for you. And I had this guy coming up to me and said, you know, I like what I'm seeing. I really want to work with you. And what do you want to do with your footballing life? And I said, yeah, there's only one thing. I want to play for Manchester United. And he said, well, I can work with that. And he brought that move to me within 18 months. So he went out there actively trying to put my name towards Alex Ferguson. And I was quite lucky because with Bromby, we were in a pre-season training camp in Spain, when Man United had this famous FA Cup game that was supposed to be either the make or break for Sir Alex. They played Hereford. I don't know if you remember this, Gary, but they were playing Hereford in the FA Cup, and he took the team to Spain for a couple of days of sort of warm weather training, and that was they were in the same hotel as we were, and they were training on the same pitch as we were. And they, being Man United, they actually took our training slot because they were the bigger club. So when they finished, we were entering the pitch. And he tells the story, I've heard it a couple of times, he said, I hid behind some of the bushes and I was looking at this madman training, screaming, doing, and I decided that is a guy I want to bring to the club. I don't know if that is the truth, but that was kind of my first physical contact with the club. But at this point, I already knew that there was some level of interest. He had the goalkeeping coach scouting me. I think he went 11 times, and then it came about. They made an official approach. And actually, I got a phone call. I was in a hotel in London preparing myself to play you, Gary, that very evening.
Ah.
That game, I still don't think it was over the line.
It was over the line. For those that don't know, this is England-Denmark at Wembley. Balls comes back, knock it, underside of the bar, bounced over the line. But it wasn't Jeff Hurst. This one was over the line.
I'm not sure, even to this day.
Have a little look on YouTube. I've checked it. I checked it before this, actually, because I thought I need to make sure it was over the line before I tell him it was. And in fact, we have a lot because you were in goal in my last ever game in English football.
I was.
Yeah, you were at United, weren't you, 92? And it was at Old Trafford. You were 3-0 up at the time and I scored with 9 minutes to go.
I don't remember stuff like that.
Well, of course you don't. So I actually thought at the time you were so good that I thought, blimey, he's let one in. He's let one in just because it's my last game.
Exactly. Oh, we let you do that, of course.
Was he a darling? Was he like a a blue-eyed boy back there, Lineker, Schmeichel. What was it like back then? I mean, did he get the rub of the green? Did he have the referees on toast? How was it? Because he scored a lot of goals. And I've looked through a bit of the footage. I mean, he was all right, I suppose.
He was a poacher. No, see, and in the best positive way. Always in the right spot, knowing exactly where the ball would end up. So somebody has a shot, he would think by instinct and natural talent that if something comes back off the post, off the goalkeeper, this is it. And that's where he was. Very, very clever on his runs to time it so when somebody was running down the wing, he was always going to be in the right position. And you had to have, an eye on every finger in order to know where he was. And as a goalkeeper, of course, you pay some attention to special players. You want to know where they are. You don't want to give them too much because you don't want to, absolutely do not want to pick them up. You don't want them to think that they are the best players in the world. But you come off the game. I remember especially the game in Malmö in 92, the 0-0 game. You had two chances.
I did.
We were quite unlucky that the chances that we had fell for John Jensen. We came off thinking we should have won, but I know that the two chances, I think... You
made one very good save. You made one very good save. I do remember that.
Was that off? I don't know if I saved or it was off the post, but you kind of know that, you're up against really, really, really the highest quality, and you only have to look at Gary's numbers, the clubs he's played for.
You asked that question now, aren't you, Micah?
Devastated. Yeah. That's not the answer I was looking for, Peter.
Anyway, that's enough about me.
The thing is, though, Micah, it was all in black and white.
Yeah. Exactly.
Those were the days.
But Gary, just to go back, when I was preparing for that game against England, I get a phone call off this agent, and he said, we have 3 official bids come in for you now. So it was West Ham, Liverpool, and Man United. They all came in that afternoon, or at least he told me that afternoon. So I went on to play that game against you at Wembley. It couldn't have been a better preparation for me, because my dream was always to play at Wembley. Wembley was the ultimate. So that was my first game there, and knowing that my dream was about to come true was just unbelievable. Great preparation. I still don't think it was over the line.
Sorry I spoiled that dream for you. But at least your other dream did come to realisation in joining Manchester United. Talk us through the actual signing.
It's really weird because I signed the year when they went on the stock market. And so I think they went on the stock market on August the 1st. So they could not sign players before August the 1st. So whoever he brought, it was Paul Parker, myself, can't remember if Andrei Kanchelskis had already signed or he was about, I can't remember. Anyway, I went to Manchester in May to do my deal. And I'm thinking, I'm coming over, I'm going to meet the chairman, I'm going to sit in the boardroom, I'm going to sign my contract, I'm going to be photographed with that. It's going to be the best day of my life. So I come up to the offices of Martin Edwards, the chairman, and he tells my agent to stay where he is, and he brings me to the museum. And we go through the museum. It takes us about 2 hours. He just wanted to make sure that I knew precisely what kind of club I was joining and what my responsibilities were. I was going to play for Man United, but I was going to carry on with everybody else at the time, the traditions and the culture of the club. And it was very, very important for him that he made me understand that. And it made my move even better. I absolutely loved every bit of it. And I had the greatest respect for Martin Edwards because he couldn't sign me that day. We agreed quite quickly, terms and all that. And it was a handshake. That was it. So this was in May. I then came back in the beginning of July. I had no contract. I had, everything. I was moving to England. Still didn't have a contract. We were pre-season in Norway, Sweden, and that went past the 1st of August. From the moment they could sign, do contracts, And when the day we came back, we had to go up to Scotland for 4 days to do another 2 games. And we had like 4 hours in Manchester. And in that 4 hours, I had to go and sign my contract to be eligible to play in Europe. So everything was kind of confusing in that sort of period, 4 hours. Everything was done. But at the time, I was already a Man United player by heart. I didn't even think about it. So my contract was basically a handshake. Doesn't happen today, does it?
I wouldn't have thought so. Very unlikely. What was it like playing for Sir Alex? Give us a little bit of an insight into not just the coach but the man.
I think first of all, we talk about the man. He's an absolutely lovely man. He is, is one of the most fantastic people, nicest people, most understanding people that I've ever met. I mean, obviously now everybody kind of sees that when they speak to him. He offers his help to him. He's always done that. Of course, you had to stay on the right side of him. If you weren't on the right side, if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do on the team, he was ruthless. He was. But I think at the end of the day, it's the only way you can do that. But yes, I had one argument. Well, I had loads of arguments with him, but I had one that was really bad. But I think
the Liverpool game.
Yeah, I think most players who played for him has had some kind of run-in with him. Mine was really bad. I mean, I'll tell the story in the film. We were 3-0 up at Anfield, and the biggest game we have is Liverpool. It's the most important game. And 3-0 up, and we drew 3-3. And he kind of blames me. It's funny because I can't really remember that argument in details because it's a blur, and you can still have the adrenaline floating everywhere. But I've seen him. He's talked about it. He said he thought I should have come for the cross where that Razor Rudder eventually scored from. And there's absolutely no way I could have come for that cross. But I remember very clearly what it was that day that he was unhappy with. He was unhappy with my goal kicks. So just think about this. Liverpool, for 45 minutes, they were absolutely, they kept us by our goal. And I had so many goal kicks, and I kicked every single one of them up. It's 80 yards up the other end. And Razor Ruddock, it was just picking them out and heading them back. And he's unhappy with me. The ball is 80 yards away from me. And I found it at the time, I found it so weird, and I reacted. It was all bad. You've had similar, not as bad, but similar situations time and time again at halftime or after a game. And with him, he would pick players out that he knew he'd get a reaction. It wasn't necessarily the player that he was angry with, if that makes sense, but he needed to offload something, and he would pick out a player to get a reaction, and knowing that the player would say something back. And, by then, he'd let out whatever steam he needed to let out, and then it was done with.
Yeah.
Finished. Never brought it up again. Never ever held it against you And I absolutely enjoyed working in that kind of environment because you could say stuff and you get things off your chest, and mostly for him, of course. By the time he said, get your bath, that was it. All done with. You can the next day you can come in for training, and everything was good. It was, I consider him the best that's ever been. And for me to have him at the time where I needed to step up to the next level, it was absolutely perfect.
Let me ask you one quick thing there, why you mentioned talking about hitting your kicks 80 yards, 80 yards, 80 yards. The game has changed for goalkeepers. How do you think you'd be now with the ball at the feet and everyone's got to play out?
Yeah, I think I'd be okay. I wouldn't be in Edison, of course. There's no one as good as that. I was watching Tottenham yesterday. Vicario came back in goal, and he's okay with his feet, but he's very effective with his feet. I think that's a point. I think it would have been very much like him being able to get the ball and be able to do the passes needed to be done in the system you played. I was playing in a period where they changed the rules for goalkeepers quite a lot. The back pass rule was changed, and it was adjusted quite a few times in that period as well. And I never considered it a problem for me. I don't know how it looked from the outside, but inside of myself, I thought I was brilliant.
Wait, didn't you change that rule? Wasn't it you who changed the back pass rule? It was you.
No,
you was responsible for that, Peter.
I take some kind of responsibility, but I mean, but this is a Euro 92 fan.
That bloody rule got changed just as I was finishing my career, and I was thinking, I have had 17 years of having to go to a goalkeeper, chase him down, and then he just picks the fucking thing up, and then then he goes out again, and then it goes back to the keeper again. Oh, and then it was almost like they did it out of spite, just to change the rule at that point. Let's take a little break there, and when we come back, there are one or two big occasions in your footballing lifetime that we should probably talk about. Welcome back to The Rest is Football with Micah Richards, me, Gary Lineker, and today, of course, Peter Schmeichel. Lots of great memories. What were your absolute best memories? And I think 1999 will probably be in there, I would imagine.
It's up there, but my greatest footballing moment, I'm not even part of it. It's when
I know
our team, Leicester, when Casper lifted that Premier League trophy, that is for me the best moment in football I've had.
Finally, we've got something in common, because that's exactly my favourite moment in football as well.
No, it was so special. It was funny because they could each take 4 people to the pitch, and you had a special armband, and you were taken sort of 10 minutes before the end of the game. You were taken into a corridor, you're waiting there, and you come out, and you have the whole scenario, the crowd is going wild, and, the players around thanking everyone. And I finally get to, get near Casper, and he's furious. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Like father, like son.
So what's happened was they played Everton. Was in that period where we were taken from our seats down to the corridor where we were sort of waiting to get on the pitch. Everton had scored, and that took the what's a clean sheet thing? The Golden Glove away from him.
Oh, right.
So even though he's just won the Premier League with Leicester, he's still hungry for more. Yeah. He was angry with that. It was funny, but it was there is a little story to that, why that moment became such a big one, because when Man United won the last Premier League, so when defending any kind of trophy on a match day, the trophy will go all the way around to every box at Old Trafford, and Frank the photographer would be there and take a photo with everyone who wants to have a photo with whatever trophy it is. So it's a Premier League trophy, and I'm at Old Trafford this day with a group of guys that we travel over from Denmark, and Casper's joining us. So the trophy comes in, and everyone there, elated, they really want a photo with this. And they go, come on, Casper, come on, have a photo. And he goes, he's a player. They are in the Championship, by the way, not even in the Premier League with Leicester. So he's persuaded to come into the photo, and he goes to the group of my friends and said, okay, but the next time I'm photographed with this trophy, it's because I won it. And they're all kind of, you're right. Anyway, photo taken. And so they get promoted that year. And then the next year, they have that remarkable escape. And the next year, they win it. And when I'm on the pitch there, watching Casper lifting that trophy, that's all I can think about. He said this. And that moment just became even better for me.
It's a beautiful moment. I'd sat there at Old Trafford with you, just behind you, when there was about 3-4 games to go and Leicester got a point. And we were both we were both incredibly nervous watching that game that day. You must be immensely proud of him.
It's been such a journey for him, of course, but also for me. It's been without this sounding too silly or too crazy, it's also been a little bit of a burden in the sense that football has never left me emotionally. I've never been able to separate myself from actually. One thing is to support a club, and you sit there and you want your team to win and all that. It's a completely different thing when your son is in there, because you everything that happens has an impact on yourself. It's very much the same as playing yourself. You're there, everything has a meaning for the next minute or the next day. Whatever you do, it impacts your life. So it's been more than 40 years now for me with that feeling. And I'm not saying that I'm looking forward to him retiring, but it really is. Sometimes it is a burden that you are so emotionally attached to.
Have you got
the
grandkids,
game.
Peter?
I've got 5.
Oh, is any of them a goalkeeper? Because you might have to keep going through it.
Casper's son, Max, who is 14, has never really sort of taken to football, and then all of a sudden, a year and a half ago, oh my God, and he is a goalkeeper. and I'm not saying this because I'm his granddad, but there's something about him.
you might have another 20 years of suffering or immense joy, as he must have brought you as well.
Can I ask you just, Peter, quickly, just before you move on, what advice did you give then to Casper? Because you mentioned about your parents, your upbringing, and then Casper, even when he come to the academy at Man City, there was a way about him where he was more focused than any of the young players around. He was obviously very talented, but what separated him from the rest of us, and he come from Man United, he was at Man United for a spell, he come to Man City, and I was just thinking, this is something like I've not seen before. What was it that you said to him that made him go on and have the career he's gone and had?
I don't think I've ever said anything to him. I think right from with the moment Casper said, I'm going to try and give this a go, we actually had a little meeting, and we sat down and I said, okay, it's fine. Obviously with what I've done with my career, I kind of know most things, and how do you want me to be in this, this new way forward? And we agreed that I was going to be his dad. He wanted me to be his dad. He didn't want me to be an advisor or a coach. So I've completely stayed away from him. I've let the coaches, I've never interfered in anything. The only thing I've ever interfered in was when Leicester, when they won promotion to the Premier League, and they won it with a few games in hand. And I was with Casper at training the next time he trained after that happened. I was watching him with his goalkeeping coach, with Stowley, and I said, listen, it's over, I don't want to interfere, but and this is something for you to think about, the two of you, if you want to, work on your starting position a little bit further out, you got to be brave, obviously, as a goalkeeper to do that, but maybe, here is an opportunity now when you've got a few games that you already won it. Yeah. And that's the only time I ever said anything. Apart from that, we agreed that if he wanted my advice for anything whatsoever, he had to come and ask me. He's done it on things that are not directly related to playing and goalkeeping. But I think the standards that he's come in with is, of course, as you say, he never really, I think he's had 2 days in the Manchester United Academy. That's all. But he went with me so many times to training, and he watched kids. I'm saying kids like Scholes, Neville's, David Beckham, Nicky Butt, and Ryan Giggs. He watched how they worked. He saw the standards there. He picked up from them. You can ask him that, where the standards that you have, where are they from? And I think he'll tell you that. I watched Man United. I watched them train. I saw how they did in training. And of course, I related that to the end product, which was obviously lifting trophies. So this is how I grew up seeing how you're doing it. And of course, for me, I had to bring that into my own career. And he's done that. And it's interesting because when I speak to Brendan Rodgers about Casper, so Brendan obviously he's a coach at Leicester or manager at Leicester, now at Celtic. These are the things he says. Casper brings standards. He brings standards to the dressing room. He's such an important character for that. And I think that's all from watching the class of 92 and everyone else at the time.
And don't take away from yourself. He would have learnt just from how you are. And he's definitely picked up I don't know, what would you call it? The starfish, where you went out. In fact, you've kind of invented that, Peter. I think you did. And now every keeper you see, when they've got a one-on-one, they do a kind of form of it, don't they?
I cannot take credit for that. It's a humble thing, isn't it? A handball thing.
Take credit.
So I brought it in from handball into football. Yeah. And I brought it in without thinking about it. Because I played so much handball in the winters in Denmark. So it was just instinct. And I absolutely clearly remember the first time it happened, because it was quite early in my time at Man United. We played Everton in a League Cup match. And it was a shot straight, and I kind of fisted it up in the air. And, you know, it sounds crazy, but you get to think a lot in split seconds, and you go, oh, Christ's sake, Pete, why didn't you catch that ball, you stupid man, you know? And went up in the air. So I'm chasing it, and I can only sort of get a hand to it, and I go again, oh, Pete's sake, why didn't you catch that one? You know? But I just followed the ball, and it went up to somebody, and the way that I've touched the ball, it went straight down to him so he could volley it. And all I could do was just to throw myself in like that. And yeah, it hit me. So, and everyone was like,
wow,
what happened there? Commentator went, that was weird. You know? So it's what it is, but it's very effective. It is, because what it does as well. I mean, you would know that, Gary. If a goalkeeper came out really, really fast at you, you would have to think quicker. And also, if he came really, really fast at you, and sometimes it scare you, you know, kind of move a little bit, or not necessarily away from the ball, but just that little bit of movement away could be the difference between you not hitting the ball the way you want it, and then, of course, the goalkeeper saving it. And I think to that effect, it's a very, very powerful way of doing things.
You mentioned in the 99 semi-final of the FA Cup. Well, it was the Giggs moment, but it was also one of your moments, wasn't it? That the penalty save that you made there that was so crucial. The treble wouldn't have happened probably if you hadn't have done that. Does that rank as one of the great moments for you?
Yeah, personally, it was a fantastic moment. When it happened, I had very little idea about where we were in the game. It was one of those games, so many things happened. It was, I mean, I always say that that's probably the most interesting game I've ever taken part in, because it was, at the time, the absolute best teams in England playing. There was nothing between us, and it was a replay on a Wednesday night from a Sunday, which a game that ended 0-0, and it had everything, you know, all the drama that you expect from an FA Cup semi-final, sending offs and disallowed goals, and then you get to that point, it's a penalty, and I'm thinking, you know, we've got time, you know, maybe 5-10 minutes if they score, and then of course we got to throw caution to the wind and just go full risk mode. And so I was quite surprised when the game ended quite soon after that. I played in such a great team, and throughout that season, everyone stepped up and made an important thing, or made more important things, in order for us to achieve that sort of end result, which was a treble. So that was a really big moment for me, and a really big part for the team that I did there.
I suppose in some ways that felt like the final, didn't it? Because you only had Newcastle to beat with Shearer. So that must have been an absolute given for you.
Do you know what, Gary? I don't think Alan is travelling at all. I think he's avoiding this podcast.
Yes.
Just not to talk about that. It was weird. I mean no disrespect to Newcastle, but you get to an FA Cup final, you kind of think that that's going to be a very, very hard game. And in many ways, it wasn't. it was. I mean, they did have a few sniffs here and there, a couple of shots, but it was not like I don't know how to say this, but it felt like an easy game for us. And we came off the game. Roy had to come off quite early with an injury. And of course, for Roy, that wasn't great, because that would be his last game of the season. He was suspended for the final. But none of the players eligible to play in the final got injured. And these are the worries. You have 3 such important games in 10 days. Your worry as a manager, as a teammate, is that you get injuries. So by the time you get to that final in Barcelona, you have more players missing than Scholesy and Keane, which was, I mean, just think about that. You play a Champions League final without Roy Keane and Paul Scholes. It's unthinkable that you can win against Bayern Munich. It just is. Because they were like the whole team. They put the whole team together. They were up and down and left and right. And I mean, it was the quality of those 2 players. And all of a sudden, both of them are not there. So it was always going to be tough on that Wednesday night. So coming through that FA Cup final without any injuries was massive bonus, and not having, well, how it felt at the time, not having to work that hard to win.
Micah wants you ask you about Roy Keane. Go on, man.
Oh, come on. I know you've probably said it many times, but what happened with this scuffle with you and Roy Keane? What happened? I've heard his version. I want to hear your version.
Yeah, I don't have a version.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't. I think, honestly, do you know what I think? It's so irrelevant. It has no meaning, carries nothing for me. I didn't even think about it. I never thought about it until somebody else, I think he brought it up in a book. We were in many ways that kind of team. You know, on the pitch, we were a unit, an absolute solid unit. And there isn't a player in there that I wouldn't have in my dressing room. I'm looking around and think I'm so proud to be part of this group. But we're not necessarily the best of friends, you know? We're not going for a pint or a cup of tea together. And that's the point. The point is we're a group of players who were brought in by the manager because we were the people that we were. And some of us had, you know, temperament, you know, some of us were a bit loud, some, you know. But that was a dynamic that brought us to the point where we could lift trophies, which was the brief that we had. You win. So I don't get why this is such an interesting thing, because it's nothing really. It was nothing for me.
Does that mean you lost then? Is that why you lost? Is that why? I think if you'd won the scrap, you would have been gloating about it, wouldn't you?
Who says I lost?
There it is! That's what I was waiting for! Hot like a sinker!
Who says? You know.
No one said you lost, Peter. I've obviously touched a nerve there with you, sir.
No, you haven't. You haven't. You know, honestly, you haven't.
I'll tell you what you didn't lose. That was the final. I was there actually in the new camp watching.
You were back home.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I went home especially to watch that game, and I sat behind George Best actually, who left with about 15 minutes to go. What was it like leading out the team? Because you were captain, because obviously Roy Keane was suspended.
Roy got his second booking, which, by the way, is such a ridiculous rule. I mean, Darren Fletcher missed the final as well on 2 yellow cards over a longer period of time. It was cruel. He got that yellow card in the second semi-final in Juventus, and he played an absolute blinder there. He carried us through, and you know, without his performance that day, I don't think we would have made the final. We were 2-0 down and turned that around for a 3-2 win. And I think that was his best game for Man United.
Sitting on the side of the pitch watching that game, Peter, I don't know whether you felt it like I did watching, but, you know, Bayern Munich were pretty dominant in that game. Obviously, you mentioned the fact there was no Roy Keane, there was no Scholes. He had players playing in different positions. I think David Beckham was playing inside that day in midfield.
Oh, yeah, he was playing centre midfield, yeah.
And you were finding it very tough. You know, you made 1 or 2 really good saves. They hit the woodwork. You must have felt it was gone.
If I'm honest, I don't even think I consider it. I didn't even think about it in the game, because over the years, we had been trained to play on until everything was done, until there was no hope. I mean, if you think of that season on its own, there are many times where we ended up, getting something off a game or winning a game. You mentioned the FA Cup final before, Ryan Giggs scoring in extra time. We're 10 men, Arsenal are 11. I use an example. We play on the 29th of January. We play Charlton away. And I think it sums up the kind of team that we are. Nothing happened for us. It's a miserable Wednesday night. It's a midweek game anyway. Miserable. The weather's not nice. The pitch was bumpy and terrible, and nothing really happened for us. And then, of course, you have players who out of nothing steps up. Scholes puts a cross in. Dwight York is at the back stick. He heads the ball on the post. It goes in. It doesn't go back or out for a goal kick. It goes in. It's in the last minute. We win that game 1-0. That gives us 2 points that we didn't have extra, and we win the Premier League by 1 point. So I use that as an example of what kind of team we were. We just carried on, regardless of how we played. We just carried on, and when we got towards the last bit of the game, and if we needed something, we kind of entered into what I call risk mode. We put more people forward. We took bigger chances because we'd rather win. We'd rather risk losing the game, if that makes sense, in order to win the game. So we just pushed on and made it harder and harder. And we were that kind of team. We played in that same year, Liverpool 1-0 down in the FA Cup with a minute to go, and we scored twice and win it 2-1 to go through to the next round. And we were that kind of team. So when you are there on the pitch, you don't have the same emotions as when you sat there watching it. Oh, this is not going well. It's not happening. You are there. You feel that you can do something about it, and you're entering into a period of the game where, for instance, now we're going to put Gary Neville a bit further up the pitch. We're going to get Gary Neville to take throw-ins on the left-hand side, which happens on the second goal, or is it the first? I can't remember. But he's over there. And normally you wouldn't do that because you're kind of you're losing the balance and stuff like that. And all of a sudden that Jaap Stam's the only defender. I now have to, as a goalkeeper, think that when they get the ball, they might just put it into a certain challenge. That means I have to be further out in order to stop that from happening. And the team was like that. So until the referee stops the game, we're still in it. That's how we think. So of course, we turned the game around the way we did.
What was that like? Come on. Where's the emotions there? Firstly, with the equaliser.
Gary, I won't recommend it, but it was the ultimate way to win a football game, and especially a final. I won't recommend doing it. It was very risky, and we got really fine.
Yeah,
and I remember
emotionally, what was it like those last few minutes?
For when we scored the first goal, I was up for a corner, and I'm running back, I'm trying because my adrenaline, it's pumping. My heartbeat, I don't know what my heart rate was at the time, but it's up there, and I'm trying to get everything down to a level where I can sort of control my movement. And it's so difficult. And all I can think about is, Pete, get it down. We're going in. I can't remember if we were going into silver goal or golden goal, but it was either or. And I've never played that game before. I'd never played where either in the first or the second half, if a goal is scored, the game stops. I'd never done that. And I kind of knew at this point that now my role is going to be more important. I've got to really be in control. And as I'm thinking all of this, we score again. Now, this time, the emotions are different. I went up because I've seen the sign with the 3 minutes coming up. I've seen that go up. So I knew that from when we were 1-0 down, it was 3 minutes, maximum 3 minutes. So I'm thinking now, okay, we're winning it. And I can see the referee, he walks around to the Bayern players that they're on the grass. He walks around trying to get them up, and he's pointing to his watch, meaning there's time. And I can see them jump up and run up and start the game. And all I can think about is, please, don't have a shot. Do not get the ball anywhere near me. I don't feel I have the capacity to move or even save a ball. And that's all I remember from that. And then he finished the game. And if you talk about emotions, I have none, because I go absolutely blank. I cannot remember anything from... I know what's happening because I've seen it on TV and I've seen pictures and people telling me that, like you said, that George Best, he left 15 minutes before the end of the game. I know what George Best did because he told the story that he went out and he came... There were like a coffee thingy outside, and as he passed it, we scored. So he watched the rest of the game by a coffee with, This is
do you know
George
what? To have that backed up, because I've always told that story, and I start, memories, you start to doubt yourself, don't you? And I thought, did I imagine that I was sitting behind George Best and he left with 15 minutes to go or not? But I've now had it confirmed, so I'm not completely gone just yet. You've been incredibly generous with your time, Peter, but so, trying to get the last few bits of your playing career in before we let you go. Leaving Manchester United, that was difficult for you, or I think I saw in the film that you sort of regretted that decision?
Yeah, no. Regrets is one thing. Maturity, looking back and seeing what you've done in your younger years and understanding that this was probably not the best decision and all that is something else. I don't regret anything. I can't regret, honestly. No. If I look back, there's nothing there to regret at all. So I think that's kind of it's too negative a word.
Yeah, wrong word. Apologies.
No, but it at the time, obviously none of us had sort of big teams around us like players have individually now. They, people to advise you on this and that, and chefs and physiotherapists and all of that to keep you going. We didn't have that, so you act on your feelings, your emotions, and also the information that you have available to you. So at the time, I was honestly mentally drained completely. So I felt that it was the right time to leave. So of course I left, and I went to Sporting Lisbon, and I cannot. This is again, I'm gonna underline. I cannot regret going there because I met some incredible people. I had some incredible experiences, and I've got so many friends in Lisbon that I wouldn't have met if I hadn't left the club. Of course, you go to a different league. You want to get back to the Premier League, and my perfect move back to the Premier League was Aston Villa, and it still sits badly with me that I had to leave Aston Villa because I absolutely loved being there. I loved working with John Gregory. I loved the fans. I loved the stadium. I had so much history in that stadium. But Graham Taylor, who took over after John Gregory, he just didn't want players like me. That's a simple fact.
Something else we've got in common, Peter.
I wasn't going to bring you into this, but it's just nice to you confirming that. But it was probably my darkest moment in my footballing life was that he called me into his office with a long time of the season still to go to tell me that they were not going to take the option they had on me for the next season. And I said that was fine because I didn't like being there with him. And he said, and you're not playing anymore. And that was humiliating for me. He said that he didn't want to be the manager who saw me go downhill. That was his words. He said I had a fine career. I don't want to be the manager. And I know the background for that. But that still to this day sits really badly with me because if I had the opportunity to stay at Aston Villa, I probably would have played on for a bit more than what I did. But then my option was to go back to Manchester and to Manchester City. That was an opportunity for me to go and work with Kevin Keegan. And what Kevin Keegan had done at the time was he'd taken the club from League One into the Championship and then into the Premier League. And I started when they entered into the Premier League. And I didn't do this lightly. Of course, I phoned Sir Alex up. I spoke to him about it. And he was fine, and the club was no threat to Man United at the time. And I felt that was really important that I wasn't going to a Man United competitor. And that's how it came about. But I have to be honest, I mean, I met a lot of very, very nice people, and some of them are still my friends now. But I didn't like being there. I just didn't sit well with me, and there's no way I was going to go to another club. So I decided to retire. But in the mix there was the fact that I've already started to work with the number one TV crew, which was Alan Hansen, Mark Lawrence, and Gary Lineker on the FA Cup, and I really enjoyed that. So I already had a deal with the BBC to go and do something around football. So it was an easy decision for me to sort of go into retirement because I had this new life already lined up.
Yeah.
Didn't last long, did I?
You've been doing plenty of it for a long time.
Can I just ask you do you enjoy this side of it, Peter, the broadcasting? I know we work together at CBS and we have a lot of fun and you get to do all the travelling, but do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
You've got the passion for it?
Do you know, Micah, I'm only doing this until I go back into football, into management. Honestly, that was my thinking. Was my thing. I've done all my badges. I've got everything lined up. I'm ready to go, and I'm just waiting for the right moment to. But I really do. I enjoy this life so much because it's not. You don't have the stress as coach or manager, and you're still very, very close to the game. So, for instance, for CBS. I'm touchline. That means I'm there. I smell the grass. I see the players. I talk to the players. I'm around footballers. I'm around football, and football is my passion. We do with Viaplay. We were supposed to do 10 games this season. Also having the studio touchline. Now we're doing 15. Next year we're doing 20, and it's really enjoyable to be around. We did Tottenham yesterday. We have Ange. He was with us before the game. You get to speak to the managers. You see how, the whole job is affecting them. He came back after the game, you see the manager in a different light, I don't want that job. I don't want that life. It's too stressful for me, but I only know it's too stressful because I have this job and I'm still I feel that I'm a big part of football. So yes, I love it. Well, by the way, Michael, what's your plans? You're doing your badges as well, aren't you?
No, I was supposed to do my badges. I was just supposed to do my badges before I signed my BBC deal, and ever since I've just been doing the broad. But I love it. I love the different roles. I love the good conversations we have. I like the chaos of live TV. I just love it when the camera's rolling. I just feel like it's. I mean, I won't say it's like playing football, but it's the closest thing to a performance, I would say, where, you make a mistake anytime you get punished. But if you play well, you feel good,
And you're good at it. I have one final question.
Go on.
When we're on this subject, so Gary, you are now ending your career at Match of the Day, which my God, you've done it for so long and done it so well. So what are you going to do now?
Gary took me under his wing. He helped me through it, He's been...
Micah, I shall still be doing the podcast. I'll still be here to offer any kind of advice that you require.
Yeah, but you're not going to be around
I've got
for
this
long,
podcast empire, Peter. I should be focusing on becoming a media mogul.
He wants to go into politics, Peter.
No, he does not
want to go into politics. That's his thing, I think.
No, he does not.
Prime Minister. If you honestly, if you went that way, I think you'd do well.
No, I don't. I'm too. I'm not. I'm not horrible
If you
enough.
win the election and becomes PM, can I come and see you at number 10?
Yes, because definitely, yeah. The only number 10 I'll ever be is the one when I played at England and Tottenham. But Peter, you are the number one of number ones, may I say? Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
so
Gary.
much for your time. You had an amazing career, and you're an amazing man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Before we go, a quick reminder, Peter, you've got a film out called Schmeichel. I've watched it, and I have to say, is that your house on the water there where you...
It is, yeah.
Oh, wow. Where is that?
So I live in Denmark.
Yeah, I presume it was somewhere in Denmark, but...
Yeah.
What a beautiful spot.
Yeah, it's about half an hour from Copenhagen. Yeah, it's brilliant. When I left England, I moved into that house, and I had no relation to the place. I just really liked the house, and I've been there ever since. And when you live kind of a hectic life where you travel a lot and you're in and out of airports and flights and different football stadiums and all of that, hotel rooms, it's really nice to come back. It's quiet. You got the water on one side and I've got the woods on the other side. Walk the dog in the morning, have a swim in the afternoon. It's honestly, it keeps me sane.
I can imagine. It looks stunning. Well, you've got this film out. I'm sure it'll be very successful. Lots of people want to watch it. It's great. You grew up, you were the son of a musician. I didn't know that about you.
No, I think there's a lot of things that people don't know about the people that we are. Obviously, the three of us, we work in the media, so people see us in that way. But when we used to play, there is this, you've been put in this bracket. This is who you are. Because people see you for 90 minutes and they think that you are that person. When the 90 minutes is over, everyone I know from football, they have just lives that people don't know about. And so many other things to offer. My book came out about 3 years ago, and it's on the basis of the book that this project of the film has come up. And it wasn't really something that I set out to do, but the book was definitely my project. But there was so much interest for to make some of what's in the book into a film. And I got to a point where the interest was like, okay, then maybe we have to do the film. But what I wanted for the people, so it was Silver Entertainment ending up doing it, was for them to have to run with the project. So I haven't interfered in anything. I let go of all control. If there's a documentary made about me, it had to be a way that people saw me, not the way that I wanted to project myself. So I had to be an honest one. What I'm really happy about it is actually shows or tells people what it takes in order to get to the top and how you have to be as a person.
Schmeichel is available to watch at home from 21st of February, and further information on the film can be found at schmeichel.film. So there's a plug for it. And it's great. You'll really enjoy it. So I encourage you to watch it. But thank you so much, Peter.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Big Knees.
No, thank you, Peter. Absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for your time. And I shall see you
tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, on camera tomorrow.
Perfect. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.